Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Stellium Astrology podcast. I'm Stephanie James, your host, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Mercury Retrograde, which occurs in Virgo. So on the 23rd or 24th of August, depending on where you are in the world, Mercury is going to turn retrograde and then going to go all the way back from the 21st degree to the 8th degree of Virgo on the 15th of September. So let me give you the dates. Mercury turns retrograde at 7:59 p.m. That's universal time on the 23rd of August, 2023. Now, if you're in Australia, it'll happen on the 24th of August, I think in the early hours of the morning. And this will be at 21 degrees and 51 minutes of arc in Virgo. Then Mercury ends up cazimi in the heart of the sun at 13 degrees and 36 minutes on the 6th of September at 9 minutes past 11 universal time. I will include a link so you can check out your time zones below. And then on the 15th of September, Mercury turns direct at 8:21 p.m. universal time, and that occurs at 8 degrees exactly of Virgo. If you're in Australia, I believe it happens on the 16th of September in the early hours in some parts of Australia. So those are the dates. Now, Mercury retrograde, he's playing a game of catch up with the sun, basically. So what happens is it's like the sun and Mercury are going for a walk together, and sometimes he drags his heels and sort of ends up a little bit slower, and sometimes he goes a bit faster. When it comes to him turning retrograde, he's gone ahead. It's almost like he's raced ahead, he's got out of breath, and then he has to kind of backtrack a bit because the sun's still moving forward, but Mercury's gone a bit too far, so he's moving back. He meets up with the sun gives him some information and or illuminates something for him that he already knows. And then Mercury then starts moving back a bit and dragging his heels because he just can't be bothered to keep up. He's used all his energy up, and then he ends up as far back as he possibly can go, starts to sort of build his energy back up, and then he can start moving forward again. It's kind of like, maybe because I'm a mum, I'm going for this analogy, but it's kind of like having a toddler who gets a bit ahead of himself, then gets a bit tired, has a tantrum, sits on the floor, then decides, no, actually, I'm going to, actually start catching up now because everybody's moving ahead. So that's kind of, in my current state of mind, a good analogy for Mercury retrograde. So this Mercury retrograde is different because we have Mercury in a Grand Earth Trine. So Mercury is approaching Mars. So he's getting geared up to take some kind of action. But before he takes action, he realizes there's stuff he has to do. He has to kind of go back and make sure he's tied up all his loose ends, essentially. And once he's sorted out all the loose ends and got everything in order, then he can take action in the future. So this period is about going back and, making sure everything is, everything's in order, basically, and everything is, all the mistakes have been corrected. And I like to think of Mercury retrograde as kind of when you're watching TV and the volume, the sound, the speaking, the speech is out of sync with the picture. So you have to sometimes reboot the telly or reboot Netflix or whatever, and then it'll resynchronize. And it is kind of like a resynchronization process. So really that's what we're doing. Mercury's resynchronizing before he takes action. But he's under the influence during this period of some extremely powerful communication. He's being aspected by Pluto in Capricorn, and also he's making aspect to Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, and this is making a Grand Earth Trine formation. So during this time, there's a little bit of luck, there's a little bit of uncertainty, and also an opportunity to really have some life-changing conversations or do something that could really change the course of the future for you. So this is a really interesting time. And on top of that as well, we don't just have that going on. We also have, at the very beginning of Mercury retrograde, we have the moon opposite Uranus exactly. So there's this real echo of change and transformation, because the moon's in Scorpio at 23 degrees and Uranus is at 23 of Taurus. So there's a real kind of a sense of maybe a chance meeting which opens your eyes to doing something in a new and exciting way, or to break a habit that has been formed for a very long time. And this all kind of apexes as well at Lilith, who's going to be at 25 degrees of Leo. So actually this is, and also the sun kind of in a wide, it's wider, very much wider, but it's kind of there. So this could be about really giving yourself permission to see a future, to work towards a future, to make changes, to become or to manifest a future that feels like you were born to do it. It's something that you should be doing with your life, to be really authentic, to use a very overused term. Now, a couple of phrases that really chimed with me was grounding dreams and bringing dreams into reality, because, you know, dreams don't have to just be Neptune's realm, and actually, with Jupiter involved here, the traditional ruler of Pisces, he's also about dreaming and believing in something bigger and having hope. So having Mercury and Jupiter in a really nice communication during this time, it enables us to see and think and implement ideas around shaping our futures and doing something different and more fitting, more practical sometimes. But actually with Pluto in the mix, it's enabling us to work some magic. And that's the other term that I liked, was manifesting miracles. There does seem to be some kind of magic touch. But obviously Mercury retrograde isn't without its issues, and there are sometimes mistakes made, secrets get out, we regret some of our actions. So during this period as well, at the beginning, Venus is still retrograde, so we're still dealing with this overlap of working through some of our other retrograde work, as well as making a start on some more. It's kind of like having some assignments to do. Now, obviously, like I said, the sun is in conjunction with Lilith, a little bit wide, but mean Lilith is involved, and I think that there is a lot of naughty horse energy, and there's definitely going to be a sense of awakening, a sense of our animalistic nature, almost this kind of raw sense of righteous indignation. And interestingly, during this period, there's a lot going on about feminism, what with the Barbie movie and everything. There's a lot going on, so it's quite interesting that Lilith is quite intrinsic to both Venus and Mercury retrograde during this time. Now, also Mercury enters his shadow period, so the shadow period starts around the 3rd or 4th of August, depending where you are in the world, and it finishes on the 30th of September. So Mercury will leave his shadow on the 30th of September. So without too much more waffling, let's have a little look at what's going on. Aries, for you, Mercury turns retrograde in your 6th house of work. Just so happens to be on the same day that the sun enters Virgo, highlighting that area for you as well. And Mars, your ruling planet, is actually sitting in your 6th house, quite close to moving over to the 7th. So in conjunction with your descendant and relationship zone, but actually Mercury doesn't quite make it up to that point. So there is a sense at this period of you really taking stock and thinking about what it is you're doing on a daily basis, whether or not your daily work is fulfilling you in a way that you had hoped it would. And I do see that during this period you are thinking about potentially rethinking your career, because you're either very satisfied with the way things are going and you've worked really hard and built something up over a very long period of time. As far as your career is concerned, you've been working very hard for very long. And actually Mercury and Mars in conjunction together are an incredibly potent combination. Now Mercury's at 21, Mars is at 27, so it's quite wide, but it's still there. And Mercury does station, so it gives a little extra power to that point, a power point, if you will. Now, in communication with Pluto in your 10th and speaking to Jupiter and Uranus in your 2nd, there is a potential here to increase your abundance, your ability to attract and manifest material wealth. And this opportunity may come from the project you've already been working on for a very long time, what you've been building up, or it may be that you don't see that that is going to be a possibility, and actually you're ready to make changes, to do something maybe a little bit more practical, perhaps doing something a little bit outside the box. You're able to turn your hand to pretty much anything when you set your mind at it, because the great gift of having Mars as your ruling planet is that if you're interested and you're able to focus, you can achieve great things. And often you can do things to a very high standard. I used to think that Aries would cut corners, but I've realized that Aries just can see the quickest route, and not only the quickest route, Aries also has this ability to do things to a very high standard. And I know a few Aries that just didn't really make that many mistakes. So annoying as that can be for the rest of the zodiac, Aries, you really do have the crown of being the best for a reason. I know there are a few other signs that might dispute that. However, yeah, this lack of satisfaction with your current situation, it's proving to be a period of deeper self-reflection for you as well. I think that actually you need to put whether or not it's putting your personal stamp on doing something, or working in a way that allows you to express a part of what you're really passionate about. Actually, it could be that you're drawn to working with children in some way, or doing something that allows you to engage in a sense of play on a regular basis. So I think that during this time, you know, you've also got Chiron in your 1st house in Aries. You've got the North Node in Aries too. And Neptune is incredibly close to moving into your sign. Not just yet, though, but it's going to happen. But during this time, I feel like you are highly intuitive, tuning into a sensitivity, tuning into some kind of deep longing to become, not only go through a healing process for yourself, if you're not already undergoing this healing process, but to actually utilize this healing process in order to help other people. Now, this brings me to Mars, your ruling planet, being on the opposite side of your chart, meaning that you are already focused a lot on other people at the moment, and a lot of your energy has been going to working on building up what other people do. You know, maybe it's like, instead of working for yourself, you're thinking about working for somebody else, for example. So it's a period of like cutting yourself some slack, actually, in order to give yourself the space to do the personal work. So if that means that instead of carrying the workload by yourself and constantly focusing on just what it is that you do, and if you're self-employed, doing it your way, but actually now it's a time for maybe going out and working for other people or helping others in some kind of way, to give you that kind of space to be able to figure out what it is you truly want to do. It's definitely a sense of backtracking on what it is career-wise it's really that you're going to feel passionate about and what you really want to do. And this manifesting magic, if you decide to do something, if you want to do it, it's a bit like the Magician tarot card. There's a sense of being able to manifest what it is that you want to do, just having the idea, bringing all the elements together and being able to just lay it down. So good luck with your future plans, because it seems kind of maybe a little bit confusing at the moment, but actually quite exciting in the long run. Taurus, for you, Mercury retrograde is occurring in your 5th house. And during this time, you have got also Jupiter and Uranus coming together in your 1st house, which is Uranus not so wonderful for Taurus, although it is great in many ways, because it's definitely helping to break habits and old patterns, and help you to see alternative routes to or alternative ways of being and looking, because obviously it's affecting your entire perspective and the way you present yourself to the world. However, Jupiter getting involved as well, this can be like sudden bouts of good fortune and luck, which is a really nice thing. If you're a Taurus, you know, it's nice to have something, little moments of abundance. So you'll probably be feeling a sense of shift as the nodes have moved out. So the North Node has moved out of your sign. So you may feel like a noticeable shift and feel a little bit more secure in the relationships in your life and the people that you're meeting on a regular basis, the people that you have regular contact with. Now, Mercury is communicating for you in your area of fun, hobbies, passion, doing things for the sake of it, children, that kind of thing. So there's a real sense that you are going to have to go back and really think about how you can get a bit more fun and play into your life at the moment. With Mercury speaking to Pluto, who's hovering in the final degrees of your 9th house, this could be about a shift in your beliefs, going back over and really questioning what it is that's truly important to you right now, and whether or not you are doing something that really inspires you, because it could be that you got sucked into doing something really practical that doesn't actually really inspire you in a way that, you know, you dreamed you would, you know, taking your exams as a younger person and thinking, what is it I'm going to do with my future? I know somebody who's really passionate about doing some kind of helping work, charity work, but I also know that they are passionate about photography in their spare time. And it could be that there's so much work, there's been no play for such a long time, that actually this is a time to go back and to really reconnect with your what truly makes you feel happy and footloose and fancy free. So actually there is this ability with this Mercury retrograde as well to have an earning review and to really look at your finances and figure out whether or not you care that much about the price tag for what it is you're doing, or whether you're charging enough for your worth. Certainly with Venus retrograde moving through your 4th house at this period, and for this, like for the weeks prior to Mercury retrograde, there's definitely a sense that you have been doing some deeper reflection on what's truly important to you. Maybe there's been, you know, you've been looking at your relationships and you've really understood which ones are really, really valuable to you, and celebrating those relationships and maybe connecting with the maternal line in some way, and connecting with the females in your life and helping you to really recognize and celebrate those connections. However, this period is not just about celebrating those people, but also about how much you value yourself, how much you value your own personal price tag, whether or not you can negotiate more for what you do, or whether what you are actually looking at here is maybe taking a whole step back, maybe downgrading yourself, demoting yourself in a career sense in order to actually be on the correct path in the bigger picture. Now, Jupiter and Uranus in your 1st house coming together, not quite meeting just yet, but just being in contact with one another, enhances that good fortune and that ability to make changes and to recognize negative patterns. I say negative patterns, patterns of behavior, patterns, relationship patterns, anything that kind of causes us to slip into a less productive way of living our life. Now you are being awakened to all of these things and you have the power to change them. So I guess really what I'm asking you to recognize is the path that you're currently on. If you are going through a bit of a review and figuring out whether or not you're doing things for the right reasons, whether that's money is more important to you than really truly doing something that feels inspiring and that you feel passionately about, then this is a time to really go over that and figure out where it all fits into the bigger picture for you. Because right now you've got the Midas touch, and actually what you want, you can manifest, and you can turn things to gold if you really want to. So think about what it is that you're really wishing for. Be careful what you wish for, I guess, is the message here for Taurus, because you will get what you want. This is what I see. So make sure you think clearly about these kind of things. Okay. Gemini. During this period, your roots are highlighted for you. Now, there's a lot going on, but actually for you, Mercury, your ruling planet, turning retrograde before he gets to Mars, you more than anybody were probably thinking of taking action and getting the ball rolling, but you do have to go back and tie up some loose ends. Definitely when Mercury is retrograde in Virgo, it's about going over the details, making sure, you know, you've meticulously checked every little thing, so that, you know, everything is as it should be. Proofreading, I guess I would say. Now, Mercury in your 4th house, turning retrograde, is about family life and also about deep personal reflection. It's the subconscious, it's the emotional and psychological basement in your chart. So maybe at this period, you're going to be doing some deep questioning, and you're going to be asking yourself things that perhaps you thought you'd already come to a conclusion over, but actually you've decided, no, actually, I think I might have a change of direction on this particular stance. Now, as I said, Mercury is trine Pluto and Jupiter Uranus. This Grand Earth Trine is very grounding. It connects things to the earth. I'm suddenly reminded of the proof of electricity being in existence, which was a key attached to a piece of string, or attached to a kite inside a jar. And I think it was Benjamin Franklin who conducted this experiment, and he proved the existence of electricity through lightning hitting the kite and traveling down the string to the key in the jar, and watching this amazing thing happen and saying, this is electricity, this can be used. Now, it feels like that's a bit of a eureka moment. And for you, I feel like you're going to have some eureka moments from your subconscious, or from your, I talked about previously on this podcast, the Joe Harry window. And the Joe Harry window is a system used in psychology where we have something in our conscious awareness, the area that we're aware of. Then we've got a hidden area, so the stuff that we hide and that we choose what we show to others. Then we have areas that aren't known to ourselves, which are the blind spot. And then there's the area of the unknown, which nobody knows, because it's literally the unknown. It's probably what's coming, to the future, aspects of ourselves that are truly hidden, and of our future. Now, with the 12th house, I feel like, as far as the Joe Harry window is concerned, that is the blind spot. And during this period of Mercury retrograde, your blind spot is going to be highlighted, or you're going to have some moments of realization from the blind spot. It could be that this is about family patterns. As a Gemini rising myself, I have actually had I've been doing a lot of work on family patterns, which I've been sharing with my patrons, actually. But actually this work that you're kind of connecting to, this kind of deeper root connection, this familial ancestral legacy, which has been which is highlighted for you during this time, could actually be quite freeing for you. You could have some moments of understanding that you don't have to be like your family. Perhaps you are dealing with family that are really quite devouring or consuming, and you know, maybe you've done a lot of therapy, maybe you've done a lot of self-help reading, but actually this period could well be about freeing yourself from those patterns which are not helpful. And actually, you know, it could be that during Venus retrograde, some of the studying that you're doing or some of the work you're doing through Venus retrograde and discovering your true worth has got a big hand to play in this. So don't forget to check out that video. You can even watch it in hindsight. It'll probably be even more effective for you. But yes, this is a really interesting time. It could be about healing rejection, for example. But actually, maybe you might have some conversations with family members or with people who feel like family to you, or maybe even with a therapist who feel the way that you do and you didn't even know, and it could actually help you to heal some of those past wounds which are subconsciously forming your connection with where you want to be. So, you know, limiting your self-belief in a sense. So Gemini, I hope you get on well with all of that. Cancer, for you, Mercury retrograde is in your 3rd house. And I feel like there's going to be a sense of wanting to go on a retreat, for example, or whether it's actually being on a retreat or whether you actually do retreat. It does feel like there's a sense of either, for me, for what I could see, there's a sense of sometimes going over memories and going over things in your head, thinking about those situations that have, you know, where you've kind of said things that now you've changed your opinion on, or you kind of feel a bit embarrassed about some of those old memories that are coming up, that actually this is a period of time where you're going to be working on that. It's a good time to journal for you, because you can write down your thoughts and write down how you've changed and what you've, like, how you've progressed in life, and how perhaps those previous beliefs or actions have actually brought you to where you are now, and what's good about that. Because it's very easy to go over some of the things that really make us cringe. You know, like I was watching a thing with Millie Bobby Brown, and they said, you know, when you were 14 years old, you actually said publicly that you thought that the earth was flat. And she was like, yes, I did. And you can see that, like, she's probably never going to live that down, and she probably will get to a point in her life where people bring that up constantly for her. And, you know, whatever your beliefs are around it, there's a it's controversial to think that way, and she was outspoken about it. So the comparison I'm drawing here is that we say and do things when we're younger that sometimes stick, and during this period you may be figuring out why you said what you did, whether or not you still believe in it, and whether or not you are happy or handling how this information is revisiting you. It could be like, you know, you shared some tweets, for example. Is it Twitter anymore? X. But, you know, like shared something on social media that comes back in time hops, that just doesn't leave you. You can't just let it go. So, you know, Virgo being the sign of the critic, and in the 3rd house, I can't help but feel that it's the inner critic. It's somebody who allows the thought process to go into override, especially with Mars being in there at the beginning of Mercury retrograde as well. It's definitely the inner critic. Now, with it being trine to Jupiter and Uranus, and also Virgo, for you, perhaps actually talking to your friends would be useful. Discussing this with your partner, with your friends, if you are having a hard time and really beating yourself up over something. It's also a good time for you to just take a step back and take some time for yourself. Block out some time in your calendar. I would recommend this, just so that you've got time to allow these ideas to ruminate, because it doesn't necessarily have to be about being critical about yourself. It could also be that you are remembering a time where you had a kind of a good idea that perhaps it's got lost in all the noise of life, and that suddenly you just had a memory, or you've just remembered that you said you were going to do this thing. You said that you were going to eventually get round to you know, studying something, or you know, implementing something in your life, positive habit, positive diet changes in that way. But there's definitely some sense of being able to revisit an old idea and actually implement it. So have a little think about that, because for you, there's definitely a sense of welcoming a change in your thought process, and not just the thought process, but also in being authentic and being true to your word as well. So if you made a promise, it feels like it's time for you to kind of carry that promise out. And it could be a promise to yourself, it could be to other people, but you are going to be able to find a way to hold yourself accountable right now, whether it's through telling people what your plans are, or actually just being disciplined about it. And during this time, bring some of your ideas into fruition. But like I said, some downtime might be needed, definitely, to book out some time in your calendar. You might even get quite bookish during this period. Nothing wrong with getting lost in a good book. That can be very therapeutic as well. Leo, for you, Mercury is retrograde in your second house. Now, it's not really like you to undervalue yourself, but actually it's possible that during this period, you're going to run an inventory on everything that you're doing, and whether or not it's working, how it's working for you, particularly when it comes to your career and your future aspirations, where you see yourself, because you seem to be at a period in time where, just like Taurus, you have a bit of the Midas touch. There's a sense of being able to really plug in to your earning potential, really ground what it is you're doing, and helping other people to not only see your worth, but to agree with not just you as an individual and how good you are for other people's plans. Just your mere presence can lift up the room, the project, whatever it is that you're involved with. But actually, if we're talking about career, it may be that, you know, your future potential is very obvious to your organization, or if you're like a freelancer, for example, you know, it may be that you find that you get a lot of offers during this time, and the people that you meet could be potentially very powerful. I think you might see a shift in the people that you're attracting into your life and your work, because Pluto is very close to crossing over into your attraction zone. It may be that you go from attracting, you know, quite straight-laced entrepreneurial types to people who are very quirky, unique, and different. So during this time, maybe it's about recognizing where it is that you need to adapt, recognizing what your presence brings to a situation, how valuable you are to others, and to really recognize how much value you're placing upon yourself, how much you're recognizing your true value. And with Jupiter and Uranus sitting up in your 10th house, which is communicating with Mercury retrograde, and with Pluto, you could go for a complete change of career, for example, or go for a major promotion and probably land it. You know, you might have to deal with some jealousy from other people, but actually during this period, it feels like, you know, really the sky's the limit. I feel like you could aim as high as you like, but it might be that you're just going for a complete shift, a complete change in all areas, and maybe home life. You're feeling a pull to home, but you're not quite there yet. You're not quite there to just wanting to settle down and have a family, for example, or you know, root yourself, you know, find your roots and settle. It could be that you're still feeling a sense of movement, or maybe it's that you are putting off settling down because you are recognizing there's a sense of the adventure might feel like it's over. So definitely a good time for you career-wise. It looks really promising, but yeah, definitely make sure that you aren't gonna, make sure they're giving you what you're worth. And you know, I think you can afford to be cheeky. Virgo, it's time for you to shine as the sun enters your sign on the same day that Mercury turns retrograde. However, you may well be thinking about changing everything. With Mercury retrograde in your sign, in communication with Jupiter and Uranus, and with Pluto as well, it feels like you're feeling ready to put your personal stamp on what you do. Certainly, if you've been going through challenges, maybe it's been work issues, maybe your health, maybe your relationships are either causing you issues or forcing you to look at yourself in a longer, harder way. Right now, I think that you are cherry picking ideas that you like about life, maybe meme collecting, some of those inspirational memes, or maybe you are exploring different ideas about beliefs and philosophies because you are going through a process of reinvention. And during this time, you are recognizing the need to change your entire perspective. Maybe you've realized that the way that you've been looking at things has been holding you back in some way. Now, it's possible as well that during this time you're saying yes to more opportunities that appear. And that includes going on a little holiday, going on a break if you want to, doing some exploring, doing some soul searching on foreign soils, for example. This is a good time for you to question who you are, question your personal philosophy, and reconnect with the true sense of who you are. Because just because you're reconnecting or because you're questioning things, it doesn't actually mean that you're not being authentic. I think that maybe what you've been trying to do is to fit into a square peg into a round hole, for example. Maybe you've been trying to do normie life, be a bit more square, and actually, there's a bit of magic occurring. You've got Neptune opposite in Pisces, opposite your sign. So though you might be attracting, the magical types, those Neptunian types, there's an element of that magic within you. You're just projecting it. And actually, when you own some of that magic, it makes daily mundane life feel a little bit flat. So this is a good time for you to recognize what it is about you that you need to express, and how you're going to bring this expression of yourself and the learning you've done on the way into your own true sort of your own creative expression. Now, it could be that you are thinking of setting up, and doing some kind of therapeutic work, for example, or it could be like working with communities who share the same beliefs as you. But actually, during this time, you are connecting. And I think that there's a key here. There is a sense of connecting with community that really awakens you to your potential. Could be just friends. It could be, that you're joining some of these workshops and healing circles and that kind of thing. But there's something that you're doing right now that is really speaking to you. And the connection of having people locally who are on the same page as you is really freeing. It's really inspiring to you and showing you that you don't have to do it one way. There are other ways to do things, and that actually, maybe the supporting role that you are so good at playing really needs to be focused on you and the work that you're doing, being your own supporting role during this time. Venus retrograde in Leo is working her magic in your rather cloudy, distorted 12th house. So it may be that during this process of elimination, you figured out who is really on your team and who isn't, and doing a lot of therapeutic work and doing a lot of deeper work with the subconscious. It's actually illuminating your true path. And it doesn't have to be about career. It could just be about how you choose to live your life, because everything else will fall into place when you are standing in your truth. And, you're going to inspire other people during this period as well. And actually, there's going to be a period during this time. There's definitely going to feel some challenge because Saturn is opposite your sun, basically. So Saturn is in Pisces at the moment, as well as Neptune. So you're meeting people who are serious and able to be practical in that magical realm. And some of the people that you meet during this time probably are going to be friends for life, and people that you can see hanging around for a long time. And, you know, I think it's possible that actually also you're going to be reconnecting with, you know, eventually this could be something that you forge into a career path for yourself. But if nothing else, it's going to inspire you. You're going to be looking up to certain people that you meet, and maybe looking back over old role models and identifying the positives that came from why you identified with them, as well as potentially leading you into a path that where you start to emulate these people, where you actually become your own personal role model in a sense. So Virgo, good luck. I'm excited for your period of self-discovery and personal reflection. So Libra, for you, I really think you need to take a break. I feel like you are doing a lot. You're carrying a lot. You're shouldering a lot at the moment. Your daily life, there's a lot of expectation. Maybe it's personal expectation, but also from others. You've taken on a lot and you're shouldering a lot of burden right now. And during this period with Mercury turning retrograde in your 12th house, it could well be that you are questioning yourself and your choices right now and wondering why it is you know, you are yet again focusing so much on what it is that other people want and not really dealing with yourself. Mars is due to enter your sign in a matter of days after Mercury turns retrograde. But if you haven't been kind to yourself and you haven't taken it easy, when I say easy, I mean, I know it's not easy to just say, well, no, to hell with it, I'm not going to do all of this work. But if you aren't factoring in enough downtime, you're in burnout central. I see it seems very overwhelming to me, and I feel like you're going to be feeling very finding it very challenging to keep your many pots boiling, because that's what's going on right now. I think you've got a lot of different projects on the go, so many that you're struggling to keep up with all of them, and there's no downtime. You literally can't take time for yourself. With Venus turning retrograde in your 11th as well, so her being retrograde in your 11th, so your ruling planet being retrograde there, I feel like you are also you're doing some really valuable work for your community, but this is at the expense of your own health right now. Now I'm not talking about major health issues. I'm talking about just getting yourself to a point where you're so exhausted that you haven't got the energy for anybody and you'll be no good to anyone. But, you know, the work that you're doing is, you know, extremely valuable and something to be really proud of. And with Jupiter and Uranus in your 8th house, I feel like the work that you're doing is to really helping people who feel very misunderstood and outcasted to feel included in some way. And if that's not the case with work, it could be with friends. You know, you might be the person who helps bring a sense of normality into people's lives, and or make them feel like they aren't so different after all. So actually, it's an interesting time for you, because I feel like the demand of others right now is weighing heavily on you. And then you may get a surge of energy when Mars crosses over your descendant. If you haven't taken the appropriate downtime, you could feel quite unwell. And Mercury retrograde in your 12th is literally asking you to just take a step back, run yourself a bath, read a book for pleasure, take time for you. Obviously, if you're doing other things during this period, like you know, making sure that you've got a way to relax and to reconnect with yourself in a way that you lose yourself, that's great. You know, like dance, for example, or you know, some kind of pottery, even, you know, some kind of hobby where you get to just lose yourself. It's important to maintain that. But if you are you know, too busy working for other people, when are you going to find time for yourself? That's the key thing here. Now, the home life may have become intense for you over the, previous months, years, maybe for quite a while. But actually, Jupiter and Uranus may free you up from that sense of intensity during this period of time. It may be that there's some kind of family drama. It could be that you're dealing with some kind of mystery around where it is you come from, or like exploring your roots in some way. Jupiter and Uranus coming together, though not quite connected just yet, and speaking to Mercury retrograde, it's a good time to start doing that self-reflection. And it could be that you're feeling liberated from this process, or at least enlightened in some way as to the motivations behind why others are the way they are, or why you've been treated the way you have been. So I hope that you find time for you, and that you do get some answers to some of the questions that are perhaps evading you right now. Scorpio, for you, Mercury turns retrograde in your 11th house of friendships, networks, and connections. And it could be that at the moment you are revisiting old connections in order to refresh them. Or it could be that it's back to normality after being with people who really inspired you to rethink some of the way that you're doing things at the moment. Perhaps your network is growing and developing in a way that is opening your eyes to different potentials. Jupiter and Uranus is also in communication with Mercury retrograde in your 7th house, and making a nice aspect to Pluto that's sitting right on the cusp of the 3rd and the 4th house. So literally the 4th house cusp really, but it's still in your 3rd. So this could be a really good time for you to do a relationship autopsy, and really look at your own personal drives and motivations within your relationships. Also during this time, it could be that you do meet people and potentially friends who have relationship potential. There definitely feels like there's a sense of going over, realizing that actually there's potential in some of your connections that perhaps you previously hadn't recognized. Now, for you as well, during this period, work, perhaps you've been rethinking work and rethinking how you can organize your workload in a way that is more beneficial for you. It's like as though in your work, it's almost like you're the star of the show, and actually it needs to be less about being constantly present and actually more about giving yourself a chance to catch up on some of these smaller things that don't need to be doing. So maybe you've got a very present, you're very present in your work, and you're very accessible, but maybe you've been thinking that you're too accessible, and actually you need to take some time, because in order to develop yourself and to grow and to explore these new connections that you have to take time in order to do study and to research alternatives. So for you, Scorpio, during this period, you're not shy about reinventing yourself, and you're not shy about you're not particularly known for your diplomacy, though you are very good at self-preservation and keeping your plans to yourself. During this period, there definitely seems to be a sense of keeping your plans under wraps, recognizing that perhaps it's time for you to not be so present in your work and in your helping work with others, and to take a bit of downtime to think about how it is you want to steer yourself in the coming weeks, months, and years, your 5-year plan, we might say. And if you meet somebody during this period, during Mercury retrograde, it could be that they reignite something that you'd forgotten about yourself. It could be that you suddenly find that you're speaking to somebody who you feel passionately connected to. It could also be that relationships have felt off limits for a while, but actually during this period you see potential for something that enables you to see a different, the future in a different way. Perhaps you'd written off settling down and having a family. Potentially it could be that you've decided you still want to pursue that, or it could be the other way. You could have thought that you definitely wanted to have a family, and now you're thinking, I actually quite like the way my life is, and I don't have a relationship where we're both seeking an end goal, which ultimately is going to be another transformation to have to work through. You're probably noticing that the nodes have shifted out of your sign. So you don't have the south node in your sign anymore, which, it's almost like you've done a little bit of sweeping out some of the outdated, dusty relationships, and you're ready now for working on, yourself again in an uninterrupted fashion. But it definitely feels like there's a potential here for you to make changes which really benefit you in the long run, and give you more time in order to do some of the self-exploration and the personal work which you so love. Even though it can be quite painful sometimes, you're really good at being very honest with yourself and digging very deep. And that is definitely on the cards for you in the coming years, when Pluto moves into Aquarius and starts to really work through your subconscious, and help you unpick some of the deeper mysteries that you are still not in touch with about yourself. So hopefully, Scorpio, you've enjoyed what I've had to say and are looking forward to opening up to some new potentials. Sagittarius. Now, there's definitely a sense that you're feeling the winds of change blowing. Definitely when it comes to daily life, your routine, your lifestyle, sort of like your wellness, really. And making perhaps changes in your diet. Maybe you've been living, doing the extravagant kind of no off button Sagittarius thing for a while, and you've been enjoying eating what you want and, not really thinking about, the bodily impact that your diet can have, for example. But actually during this time, maybe you will realize that you can make changes. The power is in your hands. You have the ability to really make big changes where you need to. Now, with Mercury retrograde in your 10th house, this could be about finding somebody to model your behavior, looking at role models, looking at people that you think, I like the way they're doing this. How can I utilize some of their techniques? I'm thinking Anthony Robbins, for example, somebody motivational, Gary V, the people that appear on our social media feeds who are advising other people on how to live a more authentic and genuine expression of themselves, or how to find the power to dig deep and to make changes in their life that are ultimately going to make them happier. Now, it doesn't have to be as literal as, seeing Anthony Robbins or Gary V and following those, but there is definitely a sense of, recognizing that it is possible. If one person can do it, it's possible for us all. That works in the positive and negative, or the higher and lower vibrations of the sense of that, every sense of that expression. So if somebody is able to commit a crime, it becomes a human act, and we're all capable of that. If somebody is able to achieve a great goal of yours, or somebody who's previously set an example, why can't you achieve that too? Mercury retrograde is asking you to go back over and think about, some of your career choices, rather than the bigger picture that you're so good at. Maybe looking at the details and thinking about whether or not you are in alignment, whether or not you're being too critical, and not too critical and too practical, and not realizing that at the moment, at any given moment, we have the ability to make great changes in our life. But for you, if you have been doing something that felt very practical for a very long time, and just ticking boxes, a box ticking exercise, right now you are in a position of actually doing something that enables you to really be truly happy. Your relationships too at this time are going to help you along your way. So it could be that other people are inspiring you right now, or it could be that you are in a relationship where you are supporting each other. And it doesn't have to be romantic. It could be like a friendship. It could be a connection where you are working with somebody in a sense that it's like a partnership where sometimes somebody carries more of the burden than others. But it could be during this time that this relationship is working for you in a way that enables you to look at your career trajectory, look at where it is you want to be, and look at your aspirations and your role models, and think about how it is you want to move forward. You know, and it could be also during this time that your relationships get a bit of a boost as well. So if you are in a relationship, it could be a really fun and positive time for your relationships to flourish. If things haven't been so great for a while, it could be an opportunity for you to recognize where things need to change, or where it ends, where it all ends. If you're having thoughts about breaking up, if you're having thoughts about not wanting to be part of this you know, partnership anymore, it could be that it's a time that you see a potential for you to walk away. You know, but there's a sense of liberation here, and a sense of awakening to limitless potential. And if there's something that's getting in your way and holding you back, you don't have to keep that thing in your life, whether it's a person, whether it's a job, whether it's a practice, a habit. There's definitely a sense of being able to make small changes in your daily life which benefit you in the long run. And every time we have to make changes, it always has to start small. If you try and make big changes, it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You can't sometimes, and particularly with Sagittarius, Sag doesn't have a kind of a stop button. So if you start decluttering, it could be that Sag, you decide you're going to declutter everything, and suddenly you end up with nothing. Whereas, you know, if you do little and often, you know, decluttering your life, let's use that analogy. If you declutter your life, you're going to make space for something really great, potentially something very positive for you, because, you know, we can't usher in change, and we can't usher in, you know, positive growth without making space for that growth, because otherwise the growth just is restricted. And I see some growth for you, some positive growth, but you do have to do a bit of decluttering in some way or another, in some place or another. And for you, relationships definitely seem to be part of the equation. So make sure that the people in your life are actually working for you, or are cheering for you, rather than, you know, secretly sabotaging you in some way. Capricorn, you are in a fortunate position right now where you are dealing with, you've been through the Pluto school of transformation, and you're close to graduating, but we're still dealing with the final throes of that. But fortunately, the work you've done, the understanding you've gained, is feeding directly into this Mercury retrograde period right now. In fact, it's kind of foreshadowing the coming months for you, because Mercury is going to go retrograde and then direct again. So, you know, it's a period right now where you are able to do a lot of strategizing. There's a lot of ability to think ahead right now, and to take advantage of having some foresight in some way. It could be that you are at a period where you are able to kind of just have a knack, an intuition for sort of predicting, you know, where things are headed in certain aspects of your life. Or it could be, rather than having a predictive ability, you know, it could be that you just have a sense for how things are going to work out, and what it is you can do to take advantage of the situation. Maybe, you know, for example, you're thinking about the stock market and you've been saving up your money. Perhaps you've been studying that for quite a while, and you've been watching trends and fluctuations, and you're understanding that there are cycles and patterns. It certainly seems like you're tuned into something right now, and that you have a sense of what's to come and how you can make it work for you. With Jupiter and Uranus feeding in this lovely Grand Trine. There is also a sense that you are working with a sense of magic. You know, it certainly seems magical. And, you know, Capricorn, yeah, you get a bit of a bad rap for being, you know, a bit boring and practical, but actually you are the mystical sea goat. You do have a very mystical and otherworldly aspect to you. There is a sense of magic and intuition that Capricorn has, which perhaps gives them this ability to rival Aries as being a forerunner when it comes to achievement. And as Linda Goodman says, not me, so don't hate on me, but Linda Goodman says in her sun sign book that Capricorn might actually be better than Aries. Is that controversial? Yeah, I know. Sorry about that. But actually, you know, Capricorn, there is a sense of understanding for you right now that what practices are working for you, what aren't working for you, and what it is you can do to free up your time more, to give yourself an opportunity to really shift. It's all about belief, basically. It's all about understanding what is possible and believing in that and having hope. So I think for you, you recognize that there is a sense of being able to make great changes, and that anything is possible if you want it to be. You just have to believe that you can do it. And obviously, you can't just sit there and believe and believe and believe without putting some work in. You know, you can pray and pray all you like. You know, if you just sit there and say, I want to be rich, you're not going to just, unless by some crazy situation, you suddenly get a bit of money land in your lap. For you, Capricorn, you know, you're not shy of putting in the legwork, and actually if you are making wishes and praying for bigger, better things, and there has to be a sort of practical plan, and this is where the strategy really gets involved, because actually you've got Saturn in your third house at the moment, which is helping you to structure your thought process, helping you to structure your ideas and how you go about them. And actually I get a real image of the sea goat connecting and swimming around in the murky waters of Pisces right now, where, you know, you're able to flex the other side of your persona. So Capricorn, it may not be the most productive and high energy time for you when your ruling planet is in Pisces, but actually it's helping you to remove yourself from the mountain and actually swim in the sea for a little while. And actually, while you're doing that swimming, and I don't know about other Capricorns, but I know I myself find great therapy in being in the ocean, actually, and swimming around. There is a real sense that, you know, it's very therapeutic for you, and the downtime could actually be really tremendously healing and helpful for you in the long run. And reconnecting with the more mystical side of yourself and understanding that there is a real sense of manifestation ability when you put your mind to something, particularly under this period of Mercury retrograde. Again, I've said it a few times, be careful what you wish for, but it's true. You can actually manifest what it is that you're after. You just have to be very mindful about what it is that you're asking for, and also be practical about how it is you can see yourself getting there. So this is a really good manifestation period for you, Capricorn. Okay, so Aquarius, for you right now, again, there is a sense of be careful what you wish for, because actually during this period, you may find that you are you have great power, great persuasion, and you get what it is you want and what you ask for. However, there is a sense of in being indebted. So it could be that if you decide you know what it is you want to do, you've asked the bigger questions and you've done the digging, and actually, you know, in order for you to achieve what you want in your career, for example, you have to study a few courses, but you need the money to do it. So during this period, it's probably a good time to look at your own financial situation, look at what's practical and what it is you can actually afford, and then making plans based around that. Now, it's not to say that you can't generate some interest on the money that you have, or perhaps even rethink your earning potential and your process around acquiring financial wealth or financial freedom, if that's what you're really looking for. However, there's a sense of understanding your limitations as far as the your financial situation is concerned. And, you know, Mercury's in your 8th house. So it's a great time. It's a great psychological exploration, and you dive into the depths. It's into Hades, essentially. So you're diving into the depths of the zodiac when Mercury's in the 8th house, and the sun's going to be there too, highlighting your 8th house. So you're probably going to find yourself dealing with financial situations in some way or another, whether or not it's debts that you have got, or you know, acquiring more money, like I previously said. It could be that you're dealing with bank managers or insurance companies, but during this time, it's almost like there's a sense of personal admin occurring, and you know, making sure that you are, you know, on both sides of the contract, keeping your word. Now, contracts do come into it with you because actually this isn't a good time to sign one. However, you know, there are times if we're signing a contract for home ownership, for example, and it just so happens that you have to sign it now, or you might end up losing thousands upon thousands of pounds. That's fine. You have to sign that contract. There's nothing wrong with it. These things do fall sometimes at unfavorable times, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing it. However, if it's signing up for a new mobile phone contract, you could probably hold up until Mercury turns direct, and to be sure that you found the best deal, for example. But during this time, it's like going over old things. If you were the executor of somebody's will, for example, it could be that you're dealing with all of the fine print and you know, the small print, and going into details about who's owed what and where to put the money and that kind of thing. There is a sense of having to trudge through you know, the unfavorable, the difficult stuff that happens, 8th house stuff. But it might not be about going through somebody's will. Like I said, it could be home ownership, it could be dealing with you know, some kind of dispute, for example, a legal dispute, or it may well be that actually you suddenly find yourself in receipt of a lot of money. It could be a sudden influx of wealth. That is the other expression for dealing with this. It could well be that you know, maybe you're owed money and suddenly the money comes back to you. It doesn't even have to be about money. I'm just focusing on that expression of the 8th house. There is a sense that you are you know, dealing with bigger commitments, and it's about being sure that the commitment that you're making right now is what it's true to what you envisage for yourself for the future and what it is that you really want. If it's getting married, if it's you know, making a commitment, a bigger commitment like moving in with somebody, it's about being sure that, you know, you are aware of what the situation awaiting you holds. So it could be you know, making sure that the person that you're going to live with, their hygiene standards are something that you can tolerate, for example, because you know, we all have different expectations around what hygiene is, and not just hygiene, but it could just be everything. It could be like mess, it could be about you know, working with somebody about equality in the financial planning aspect of everything. So Aquarius, for you, it's definitely dealing with much more the stuff we don't always want to be dealing with. But for you, fortunately, you've got a good head on your shoulders, and you have Jupiter and Uranus helping you to work out a fair way of doing things, and eventually liberating you probably from a current situation that actually isn't working for you. So it may even be that you're thinking about relocating and revisiting the idea of moving. Could be another expression of this. So good luck, Aquarius. Now, Pisces, we got there in the end. Pisces, for you, Mercury retrograde is happening in your relationship zone. Now, again, I just talked about money with Aquarius, but I'm feeling that possibly you might be owed some money, or some money may be incoming, but it's not the it's not the be all and end all for you, because Mercury is turning retrograde in your 7th. He hasn't quite met up with Mars yet. So whatever it is that Mars holds for you, whether it's money that's owed, or perhaps you know, a property that you're looking to move into, for example, or perhaps you've got your stuff in storage and you want to get it back. It's not quite time for you to have all of that at the moment. At the moment, you are working through your relationships, not just your current relationships, but your previous ones too. Old flames may be returning, or it could be that you are going through, somebody else is having a relationship autopsy, but it could be you too. You could start questioning, you know, your relationships, and you know, why it is that you've found yourself in certain patterns, and whether or not your role to play in these relationships was you know, part of why they worked out the way they did, and whether or not you could have done things differently. It's definitely a very reflective time, but reflecting upon your involvement with other people. And you know, as my counselling teacher always said, relationships are the vehicle of change. So we go through great changes through our relationships. We are awakened to great aspects of ourselves through our relationships. And actually, for you, reflecting upon this during this period, it could be a really useful time for you to do some deep self-explorative work, because actually, you know, during this period, your 4th house is highlighted too, being also Mercury ruled. So it could be that you are digging deeper and looking within, and asking yourself some bigger questions. Now, actually also, it could be that you are thinking of changing your environment, your home life in some way. It could be that you want to redecorate your home. It could be that you want to, you know, move around a bit. Maybe you've found somewhere else to live, but it feels like there's a whole makeover process involved here for you in some way or another. You've got Saturn moving through Pisces, so there's definitely a sense of practicality about your outlook, and being able to manifest. Already there's this kind of, it feels like a heavy responsibility. Maybe you feel like there's a sense of mastery about your position in the world right now. You've achieved a sense of you've achieved a level that you feel proud to say that you've done a lot of work, and now you're living as an example to other people in some way, maybe through your work, or some of the things that you're passionate about. But maybe people are seeing you as somebody to turn to for advice and guidance, because you've become a bit more of a teacher in that respect. And during this time, it could be that you also attract you know, clients, or people who want to learn from you in some way, or collaborate with you in some way. Now, Jupiter and Uranus are in your 3rd house, and they are also communicating with Pluto in your 11th. So actually, during this time, you may have a little bit of a knack for language, and it could also be that you find yourself in receipt of benefits from friends, maybe a friend with benefits. However, it's as though a collaboration is extremely fruitful for you right now, and working with other people could actually be really, really beneficial. Reconnecting with old partners, people that you're working with who, or maybe old projects, people that you worked with on old projects who are able to, you know, breathe new life into a current one, or maybe reviving some of those old projects. There certainly seems to be a sense of reconnecting with some of your friends, some of your old connections, some of the people in your life who, you know, maybe you've gone your separate ways for whatever reason. Now it's a time to get back together and do something really amazing, perhaps some creative work. And maybe the thing that's owed to you is that you've put a lot of work into other people's projects, and actually now it's time for other people to start helping you with yours. But there certainly seems that you've got a gift for language right now, a gift for poetry, for articulating yourself, and for really speaking the truth. And actually, maybe some of the things that you're working on right now are going to connect you with a very true, a very genuine expression of your the things that you've worked on for so long that have helped you to master what it is that you're doing. And Saturn's going to keep cruising through your first house for quite a while. So there's a lot of work to be done still, but this could be a really good starting point for you, a good stepping stone into really being seen as a force to be reckoned with in whichever area of life you are channeling a lot of your energy into right now. Whether that be how you want to be seen in a professional sense, how you want to be seen in your community, how you want to be seen in your relationships, and actually how it is you really see yourself on a deep level too. So good luck with it all, Pisces. I have a great feeling that it's going to be really fruitful for you. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it enlightening, and I hope that you can apply some of the insight into your daily lives and hopefully work with this in a really cooperative and productive way. Don't forget, I have the prize draw, and if you'd like to be in with a chance of winning a gorgeous Monk's Astrology personalized birth chart or birth chart clock, all you have to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you have a private channel, screenshot your subscription and email it. And if you just include your YouTube handle as well, so tell me what your channel's called, just so that if for whatever reason, I do pull your name out the hat, I can hunt you down in a few different ways to let you know you won this beautiful clock made by the very talented Catherine Monks, who creates a variety of bespoke and personalized astrological ornamental artwork, and it really is truly stunning. Thank you to everyone who's subscribed so far. And don't forget to check out my Patreon page. You can get discounts on readings, lots of learning content on there, lots of videos for you to check out. And I really do feel very close to my patrons. We do really enjoy having conversations and a regular kind of, it's a nice little community. So definitely come and join me on Patreon if you haven't already. And sign up to the newsletter as well if you're interested in keeping in touch with what I do, being in receipt of some special offers. Often my patrons and my newsletter subscribers are the first to know about what's actually going on in the Stellium astrology universe. Okay, everybody, take care, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye.